We're making good progress, everyone. We are on time as well, which is great to hear. Right, we're going to kind of carry on this sort of riff, this theme that we've had for the last couple of panels. And we heard it there from Annie before. It's of today's version of the beautiful game. Performance is only really just part of the story, performance on the pitch. Of course, they have performance at elite level with this high-performance mindset and culture, but it sort of permeates in lots of other areas and lots of other worlds. So their business interests have diversified as well, and it happens earlier in their career than it perhaps used to. And in terms of investing in themselves, every player, regardless of club or country, has the potential to be a brand in their own right, if you strategize it right, because that's a big part of this. And in some cases, their brands can be, as we mentioned with any, as big or even bigger than the clubs that they play for. So in this next conversation, we're going to be unlocking how footballers can build lasting influence, unlock new revenue, and take control of their narrative. We'll have insights into digital strategy, AI, and also the ongoing Project Red Card legal case, which you might have heard about. So please welcome to the stage another stellar panel. Karen Carney OBE, fresh from the Women's Champions League final as well. Paulo Malva de Vale, Jude Ajibiwa, and their moderator, Fiona Green.
Hi. Okay, thank you very much indeed. And let's go straight into it because we're short on time. We've got lots to talk about. So Karen, I'm going to come straight over to you. Footballers as a brand. Tell us, how different is the world now compared to when you were on the pitch? I mean, could you have been a brand back then, or do you think something's changed in more recent times?
I'll be brutally honest, I don't think no one cared when I played, to be honest, about brands. I think we were trying to get brands involved for women's football as a whole. Individually, there was maybe a couple, maybe Boots, as in football boots, wanting to get involved, but not on the level where it is now. It's dramatically changed, and you have to think if you're being players. I don't think really think about the brands. I think maybe they have teams around them that should do that. I think you should always be focusing on the football if you can, and then if other opportunities and passions come in, great. But certainly wasn't available when I played, and I'm not a dinosaur. I'm not 100 years old, but it's just how fast the women's game has grown, and it's great to see.
If you did have the ability to share more of your passion, more of Karen back in the day, what would you have wanted us to know about you that we didn't already?
I think it's also quite similar to what I'm doing now. You often see me doing quite serious stuff, which is great, doing government reviews, and my broadcasting at times is very much down the serious side, but there's actually a fun side that I hope new people see. And I think that's probably the side where athletes want to show their personality, show other sides to them that, that's fun. You can be so serious about your sport, you can be passionate about what you do, but that's maybe not every minute of every day. Yeah. And I think we're curious to find out a little bit more about the athlete. And, I'm probably more keen to do that over the last year or so, to show a different side to me, that it's not all serious and we can have some fun.
Brilliant. So you're going to tell a joke for us then in a minute?
Oh, you're right to stitch me up there, aren't you? Oh, come to me after.
Cheers. So, Paulo, you've been in the sports industry quite a while, so same sort of question to you, but you're not a professional athlete. I mean, you look like one, but...
retired one.
What sort of key changes have you seen from the other side of the table? So Karen was the player. You've always been on the commercial, on the business side.
Absolutely, Fiona. I think when I go back 10, 15 years, I remember the brands looking for association with rights holders, with the Olympic rings, with the UEFA logo, the Champions League logo, FIFA, etc. And it has evolved as sports consumption has evolved. Gen Z, Gen Alpha going for the snackable content. There's that direct-to-fan relationship that now exists, and at least that possibility. Brands started a lot to ask, how can we get individual rights? How can we activate through someone who's relatable to our customer and not just a brand? So that was definitely key, and I think it basically went with the change in sports consumption. And there's a big focus now on professional athletes, and to what Karen said, not so much what they do on the pitch, but what they do off the pitch, which is exactly what makes them relatable, right? What they do on the pitch, they sometimes look like superhumans. She's a great player, he's a great player. I'll never be able to reach that. But at the same time, there's an individual behind, someone with some taste, with some superstitions, there's some humanity
with
to
some
it.
Jokes.
Some jokes. So yeah, that's the change we've sort of observed in the last few years.
But you also are representing some pretty big players, so Rúben Diaz and André Silva. Any fans in the room? How different do you think it might be if you're not Rúben Diaz or André Silva?
I think it's all about setting the expectation with them. I think Rúben, obviously, and André, they're great players, fantastic players. They already have a huge platform of followers. What we're trying to do is turn those followers into fans, loyal fans. So not just being aware of what Rúben's doing on the pitch because he's a Man City player or because he's a Portugal player, but also making Rúben a bit more relatable in terms of what his characteristics are, what his tastes are, because that has also a lot of commercial potential. And so it's that work that we're doing, and that can actually be transferable to everyone.
Yeah.
The platform won't be the same, but if you set the right expectations together with the player, if the brand building is based on authenticity, then I think it can be done with everyone.
Brilliant. And we certainly believe that at our business as well. We believe that the principle of brand is the minute you step onto the field, the court, the track, you become a brand.
Yeah.
So Jude, let's come to you now. So you're on the same side of the table as Paulo, also with some elite players,
Correct.
Jade Riviere, Carlos Baliba, but you're also quite a newcomer.
Yeah.
Have you seen, I mean, I love your content, by the way. The way you talk about your business, your industry is fantastic. You could be a corporate marketer up there talking about an actual brand.
Appreciate
So
it.
my question to you, have you had much pushback from the traditionalists in the industry? Because I'm sure you probably have come across them.
Yeah, of course. I feel like in any industry you're in, you will have pushbacks. For someone like myself, I've never really been traditional. My background's not traditional. How I learned what I do now wasn't traditional. I had to test, I had to trial, and I had to do things my own way. So for me, of course, you're always going to have people who are going to doubt you, say it's not going to work. But at the end of the day, I'm coming from a background where I feel like it's needed. It was something where I was with football players, I've been in rooms with them, and they'd be talking about, I can't really be myself. A lot of them play in the Premier League now, and it's like, so how do we establish you to have a brand that you can build upon? How can we allow you to connect with the fans and the audiences that you have catered towards you? You touched on, of course, Rúben Diaz having millions of followers. There's people out there that have 100,000 followers, and if they have a direct fan relationship, they can actually not only on the player side monetize from it, but fans can also understand the player that's in front of them more, and they'd actually tap into that, and they actually subscribe to that as well.
Are you finding that players, athletes are singing the same song as you, or do you need to convince them, or is there a mix?
It's a mix. So some players, it's just like different personality types as well. Some players, they're out there, they like being flashy, they want to be seen in different places, whereas other players are quite reserved and they don't really want to put themselves out there. But I feel like no matter who you are, especially everyone in this room, everyone should have some sort of funnel. Now, whether you like it or not, when you post on social media or when you post out there, you are looking for some sort of validation, some sort of approval, some sort of tick. Now, if you are a football player, why would you not find a way to see, I want to know who my fans and audience are? Why would I not want to give them back for the opportunity of being here today? So even though you may have 50,000 followers, there's no reason why you can't be earning a salary off the pitch from what you're doing as someone who's in the Premier League, for example.
But back to your point, Karen, so Jude's just saying when you do this post, you're thinking, I want the validation. How much does that play into your thoughts when you're thinking about your persona in social channels?
Well, anytime you press post, it's out in the world. It's not necessarily, it's not owned by you, it's owned to the public. So I guess everyone's talking about controlling their own narrative. We have to do it in broadcasting. Sometimes I don't understand why managers or players don't give back a little bit more, because if you don't give us something, we'll create the narrative for you, and it might not necessarily be right. So I sometimes think it is good to put things out there in your control and contain that. But as soon as it's out there, it is owned by the public, so you have to be really careful and have really good people around you that when it's going out there, it's in with your narrative, your story, and in your control. So, because you don't want somebody else doing it for you. But it does make you think. I've definitely thought about it. Sometimes I've held back, and maybe it's been personally a negative on my brand. But you have to own it, and you have to make the decisions when it's right for you, and pick the right people around you to drive that. Because, say for footballers, you're in the public eye, and you want to focus on your football. If you have a bad game, You don't want to see all that negativity. So you have a team around that have that control for you, so it still gets out there, but you don't see it, and you can still focus on your brand, focus on your pitch.
Well, but did you have that circle back in the day when you were playing, or is it more recently because the game's grown, or you've become more of a media celebrity now?
No, not back in the day. I didn't really understand social media. I don't think anybody did. That's why you have amazing people like you two now who can actually strategize and give good advantage to you. I didn't really understand it. Obviously, I get it now, and the timing and things, and that importance of that narrative is really, really key. But you can always learn. You can always learn more, and this is a fast environment. It's always changing. The audience is always changing. It's Gen Z now. It's Gen A. What does Gen A want? What do they look for? What are they? What are their interests? So it's always key to keep evolving and understanding that audience.
And are we going to pick up on the B's and the Y's and everything in between at some point, or are we missing them all out? Talking about great people, Paulo, I'll never forget an early conversation where you used a term with me to discuss Rúben, and I was blown away. You said you're working on his brand architecture.
Yeah.
I thought, wow, if his fans could hear that. What does that actually mean in real terms when you're talking about a personality like Rúben?
It was the work that we did and we're doing with Rúben is exactly the same type of work that we would do with a corporate brand. When you're talking about a corporate brand, there is a mission, a vision, there are principles of activation, there are values. So that think of it a little bit as a glass of water, right? And the water being the brand equity. Depending on what you do and what you don't do, it evaporates, it spills over, so it goes a bit down. Our job is to maintain it at a certain level. And for that to happen, I think we need to have two key things. One is the awareness and the authenticity, and it relates to what you just said, Karen. During the footballer's career, there's so much focus on pitch, and that's how it should be done, right? And those 10, 15 years, they're all about training, about nutrition, about performance, etc. And we've had already a few examples of people that come to us post-career and say, can you work on my brand now? And now, yes, but it's unfortunately a bit too late. So that's the struggle we're having, is that awareness during the career.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough to be able to convince Rúben that it was important. And so we sat down with him and tried to build the architecture, which was, it was almost like a psychology session or sessions with him, where we spent a few hours at his apartment understanding who he is, but not the number 3 of Man City, like who Rúben is, with a white brandless T-shirt.
Yeah.
Who he is, where does he come from, what are his values, what he wants to be.
Did you feel like a counsellor?
Well, yeah. He wasn't laying down or anything. He was just sitting down at table. But yes, so it was very eye-opening. We remain flexible enough to have the same conversation with our clients and get to different results, because it comes down again to authenticity. And we established brand principles for Rúben. We established a brand space, a word that he should own. I think Jeff Bezos said that your personal brand is what people that don't know you say about you when you're not in the room.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that what people say about Rúben when he's not in the room is not only, one, the same thing, meaning that we're doing a good job, but two, and most importantly, something that he identifies with. And so that's the work we've done, and we started to activate around it.
And so you also now represent André Silva. Have you done the same process with him?
Exactly the same.
And without giving too much away, did you see big differences?
Yes. Yes, because although they're both professional footballers, they're different individuals.
Yeah.
And we're working with the individual. I always told André, actually, the first time we spoke, like, listen, you're a professional athlete, but the athlete is replaceable. You're the number 9 of Werder Bremen and Leipzig. In 5 years, it will be someone else. But also Messi got replaced. He's no longer the number 10 of Barca.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter the level, so you get replaced, but the individual does not. So if you establish yourself as a powerful individual brand, when you still have that sort of exposure that you have naturally from your profession, then your brand equity will be much stronger when you...
Can I just jump off the back of that? Do you know what? There's also things about mental health. You might be thinking, where are you going with this, Kaz? Because a player might get injured, right? And if you're solely, trust me, I'm all about football. Be the best footballer that you can be. Take care of business. That should be your focus. And nothing should ever be a detriment of your playing career. That's your number one. But say if you get injured, you've got to have other things in your life that you're passionate about, that you care about, because your life shouldn't be solely identified by kicking the ball, because you will retire and you will get replaced. And that's why I jumped to mental health, is because when you finish the sport, you have to have something in place. You have to have your passions. You have to have your next job, your next career lined up. So this is really important, because we're talking about business and commercialization, but I work with a lot of players that currently in the game, and I'm helping them for their career transition, because I don't want them to come to the end of their career and go, what next? Who am I? What do I do? So it's, as I always champion, be the best at your sport, because it is a short career, but do have people around you that challenge you with your other things, because it could go like that. It could be your own decision, or it could be taken away from you. And that mental health is something I'm so passionate about, and this is why this is so important as well.
So do you mind if I ask, and again, without divulging any sensitivities, what level of support is there for professional athletes in that space? And who's responsible for it? Is it the club? Is it the governing body? Is it the representatives?
Well,
is it you?
Everybody should have a responsibility in that, everybody, and you shouldn't just put it on one thing. But if you do look at when a player exits the game, how divorce rates, financial difficulties are all there. So this is why all this is really, really important, and the educational piece around it. I don't want to take too much time because we're on a team here.
No, please do. No, it's
but
very important.
I do think that side of this is really important to talk about and communicate, because you shouldn't come to the end and have problems or anything like that. So it's really important what you guys are doing.
We are seeing an awful lot more, aren't we? That openness, that willingness, and that ability to talk. So, Jude, there's already been a huge seismic shift. Where else do you think we're going? What do you think comes next? We're now talking openly about mental health. We're using terms like brand architecture. What do you foresee next?
I think I'm big on player funnels. So a player, talking about mental health, for example, players have a team around them, especially after games, to kind of numb them from what they see on social media and what they see online. Because we know what it's like. We're all humans. If you see negative comments or you see negative remarks, it might push you down, or it might put you in places where you don't want to be, depending on where you're from. It might use it to fuel you as well. But the good thing about that is having a team that can actually propel you to go to the right places. So for one of our clients, we actually have a prevention where he's quite young. He's a Gen Z. He loves social media. He wants to be out there. He wants to be posting, but he also understands that he's a football player first. So he has to prioritize that, put that as his bread and butter for now, and we will work on everything around him. Similar to what you do, we assess our players. We sit down with them and we say, what do you actually want from life? Not just football, but from life. Because, this is your job. For other people, it can be their 9 to 5. But for you, this is your bread and butter now. But what happens after your career? So the shift for me is about player funnels and how they can make money off of the pitch as well as on the pitch. So a player funnel is essentially having that exposure, having the publicity on them, or the likes and the follows, or whatever it may be. But it's not just about putting yourself out there. It's about how does that go into a place where you can actually build something with the fans and actually have something where there's substance. For example, brand partnerships is another way they get paid as football players. You can go to a brand and say, in my funnel here, I have 600 mothers who are subscribed to me and what I do. I can use this as a case study to show you how we can use your product or your service with the efforts that I have in my funnel. And that's what Pro Data Stack is, what we're using to fuel as well. So Pro Data Stack is basically a platform where we can see the numbers online of traction of Google searches, and we can also see, let's say one of our clients, for example, let's say Rúben Diaz. If we wanted to find out who is typing up Rúben Diaz and Lamborghini, we can see all the traction that's coming towards it. And it's really cool because then you can cater towards that audience specifically and kind of find out what they're interested in and what other things they may be interested in as well.
Thank you for checking my business. I really appreciate that. But going back to the sales funnel, I've seen a lot of your content where you literally talk about the funnel that corporate brands use, where you've got masses of people at the top, and then eventually you're trying to bring them down. What is the bottom of the sales funnel for your clients?
So bottom of the sales funnel is essentially are we talking for a fan or are we talking for the athlete?
For the athlete. What's the bottom of the funnel for the athlete, that you've done your job, you've got all the fans through the funnel and they're there?
He has a whole family and community and audience that are just like him or can resonate with him in some sort of way. Some people love anime, some people love football, some people just love the fact that he's a sports player, some people love gym, some people are motivated by different things. Like, I go online now, I scroll through TikTok, scroll through Instagram, and I can laugh and I can chuckle at different things. You want that player to be able to relate with his fans. Like, we need to stop, not that stop glamorizing them because they're amazing athletes, but it's also they're humans as well. And they want to be human. They want to be humanized. They want to be able to relate with people, especially Gen Zs and Alphas. They feel like, okay, how do I put myself in a position where I can kind of be with my fans, but not necessarily be in the same spaces all the time? So we give them that opportunity to say, okay, why don't we do an events together? Or why don't we do a watch along? Or, you know what, we're doing a brand activation. Let's do it with my fans and audience as well. So it's really about connecting the player with the fans in an organic and authentic way.
So let's have a reality check here, because Karen, you've talked about the importance of having good people around you. And we've seen some good people here. But you're working with female players or male players, both? You said you're working with athletes.
Yeah,
at the moment.
female.
How many of them have good people around them as a percentage? I mean, is it easy to, Rúben Diaz, André, Silva, Carlos Baliba, what if they're not those people? Is it easy for them to get access to this type of support?
I think with women's sports, it's obviously growing, so they're still trying to find the right team around them. With the greatest respect, with the brilliant gentlemen that you are working with, they are the 1% of men's football, so it, probably can afford amazing people like you guys. But women's sports obviously still growing, and people are still trying to find that team and still fight. I mean, for me, I had to do a review into the women's football to say, can we raise minimum standards?
Yeah.
So let's be honest. But where I do think it's really clever and an opportunity is actually brands want the females talent, but maybe we're still trying to push the minimum standards in the sports. So this is where I got little
so
jump in.
Touching on that. So obviously one of our clients is a female athlete, and she's at Manchester United. Now we get a lot of brand traction in terms of like they want to do partnerships with her, but when you look at what they're paying her for the same thing that a male athlete would do, it's kind of like you can definitely see there's a gap in the industry and what they are demanding from each athlete.
But I think, and that's fair and not fair, but that's fair comment to say the truth. But I think, look, we've still got a lot to do with the women's sport. We really, really do. So there are brands getting involved. But I think your question around females having the right team and talent around them, I'm not sure. Maybe you guys represent females, but I'm not sure they're quite there yet, because ultimately public can't afford to have the right team around them. So we have to keep creating these environments and getting brands and pushing brands to pay the right fees to make sure then they can keep, and it becomes a more virtuous cycle, not a vicious one. Because ultimately, I'll be brutally honest, sometimes within women's sports, the top people are doing great, but there's a lot of people that are just kind of doing their job, and we need to keep driving those standards more and more and more. So we still got a lot more work to do, but your business is obviously really key in that, because if we can target audiences and who's interested, then we can be more specific and hopefully increase the salaries of female athletes by brands first.
Yep.
So, and that's one of the pieces of research we did. We learnt that female athletes generally earn 10 times more through their off-the-field activities than their on-the-field activities. So we're hoping that this emphasis on them as a brand will help level that up.
Sure.
So that they can go and afford Paulo and Jude. Sorry, I don't know how much you earn. No. I'm just saying.
And that wasn't a dig at you guys.
No.
That's the reality. Is like these for female athletes,
reality.
you have to have a conversation and say, can I justify sometimes adding more people to my team? That is fact. So it's not a judgment on anybody else. That's just the reality sometimes of female athletes.
Let's bring it back to, let's take it out of the female space, because I'm sure we all have, many people in the room will have passion and opinions about that. So, Paulo, this morning, a gentleman from America was interviewing the president of IMG, and they were talking about how clubs have become media companies now, or they should. And of course, we're talking about athletes becoming, I don't know what the term is, but brands, media, generators, etc. And this question that Scott asked Adam was, do you think we'll see a day where clubs have massive technology teams like Netflix has, to create that content? Do you think we'll see athletes having additional people in the team alongside you that are taking care of that tech? And
Absolutely. If you just look at the basic figures very objectively, and I'll speak about Rúben. Rúben has roughly 9 million followers across the main platforms. This is more than the double of Benfica, the club where he started, that has 121 years of existence.
yeah, scary.
Rúben is 28.
Yeah,
So they are media companies already.
yeah.
I think that there is a little bit to be done in terms of awareness, education, a little bit what you were saying about female athletes still is applicable to men, because again, Rúben and André are the top 0.1%.
What is that percent, by the way, would you say? Is it 0 point, like you say? It's
Zero
gotta
point
be
something.
0 point
Yeah,
something,
for
yeah.
sure. So I think there already are media companies. I think some of them already have, sometimes through their agencies, people that produce their social media content, etc. But it's still very organic. It's not a strategy yet.
Yeah.
But it's a necessity. It will come for sure.
I feel like data and storytelling is literally the future. Like everyone talks about storytelling, no matter what industry, storytelling. But when you actually apply it to an athlete, like everybody has a story. No matter who you are, where you come from, people will relate with you because, yeah, we've all been through the same stuff. So if you are able to storytell an athlete and help them and show them, okay, with the data and statistics from this one, this is the traction you got from this, we can start to build a picture around the player as to, okay, where can we get the biggest audience and how can we make sure that you're pushing more of that content or more of that theme so that we're applying to a bigger balloon, for example, bigger balloon of people.
Yeah.
But back to Karen's point about understanding more about the person themselves, well, you've all made that point, but particularly on the mental health. How far away are we from mental health being a talking subject now, Jude, with players now that are at the elite level? Is it something they tend to talk about as they're coming out of their career? Or?
Yeah, so as we know, football is like, you never know what could happen. You could be playing football today and then tomorrow your ACL goes and you're out for a year. I feel like definitely being exposed more to it now, especially with how we've seen careers are going, like if you're lucky 10 to 15 years, but really and truly, the reality of the situation is you need to start thinking of it the moment you're a professional, not even the moment you're a professional football player. They're actually being taught in academies now because at the end of the day, it's like mental health can come down to a number of things. It can come down to your playing time. It can come down to you missing home. So you start to think of these things from the academy, and that's what our teams are for now. It's not about just having one agent or having you playing your football and enjoying your football. The teams around them are to protect them, protect their mental health, and make sure that they're playing the best football that they can. You're basically taking everything off their hands to make sure that they're just thinking about going on that pitch and then coming off it. The unfortunate thing about it is not all teams are like me and Paulo, for example. A lot of them may be just money hungry and just focused on what can come with being with a professional athlete. But at the end of the day, you should be their friend. I know a lot about my athletes, a lot more than what anyone else would know about the athlete because I'm helping them tell their story and I'm helping them build a brand.
Karen, just building, you mentioned the academies there. We had a call, Karen, with a Premier League first-team coach, and I was talking to him about this principle, footballers as a brand, and we've had numerous calls with him since, but in that very first call, he said, yeah, I don't like that. I want my players to focus 100% on what's happening on the pitch. But, he said, I'm not so daft to know that it doesn't go on. I know that you know, blah, blah, blah. So my opinion is we've got to help them. We've got to support them. Do you see that view much? Do you see the clubs with your athletes that you're looking after? Do you see them trying to help them, or is it still down to the people, their own personal teams?
But just to be clear with the athletes I mentioned, I try and help athletes prepare for when they retire, not their agent.
Right.
I work with another brand on career transition.
Nice.
So that's why I'm really passionate about exploring other opportunities, because football, you should have the right people to look after your football, and that should be your bread and butter. But that's why I go after. I've worked with a player that went for a medical, had a heart condition, had to retire the next day. So this is why you have to build things in place, because you should have other passions, other things that you're ready for that smooth transition. That's what I'm passionate about. But I will always say to the players, you know, take care of your business, be the best footballer that you can be, but there's plenty of time where you're not on the pitch. Even when you're in recovery pumps, how can you be smart about your time? When you're on the bus, how can you be smart about your time? And I mentioned mental health not as in like talking, it's preparing for that, having a plan for retirement, having a plan that I've never known. Please tell me an athlete who's never been injured, because I want to know what they've eaten, done, and I'm going to box it up and sell it. But that will happen. So how do you support them in that process? If you're not an athlete, the way I can describe it is, imagine your jobs that you do now, and that's taken away from you. How would that make you feel? So you have to have other things in your life then that can fill that gap temporarily, and that's why these guys are really important.
But you're thinking about that now because you've come through it. You're a former player now. Are you and you three the only people thinking about it, or are the club people thinking about it as well? Do you think?
I think, again, I've been passionate about driving clubs to think more about that transition again, but I think it's a conversation for everybody to be a part of and to drive that. But it's just something we should be conscientious about and moving forward. But I'll always believe in that because I've transitioned out of sport myself, and it's difficult. So you have to have the right people around you, and you have to have other things, other strings to your bow.
And if I may just,
Yeah,
I
please
don't
do.
think we should put all the responsibility on the club.
No.
I mean, the club has lots going on, and at the end of the day, they're employees. They try to make the best conditions possible for them to work, which is playing football. But still, as they depart, others arrive, and they need to take care of those. So I think there's a need, and our job should be a little bit to get to the players to a point to when they retire, when that moment comes, they're able to choose what they do. They don't have to do something that is available. And this is our job. I think it's also the agency's job that should be a bit taking care of that with the help of the clubs, but not solely on the clubs, I think.
Interesting. Right, quick fire round because we've got to get off the stage now. What one piece of advice would you give to anybody in the audience interested in getting into the player space, looking after players, helping them become brands?
Yeah, tell the story the same way you tell your own story. Whatever's interesting in your life, find out from the player's point of view what's interesting about yours, because they don't open up. You kind of have to get it out of them because they just want to focus on football.
Fantastic. Different question for you, please, Paulo. What one thing have you done that you would have done differently if you could go back?
I would have started sooner.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great one to have. That
I
shows
would
the
have started
potential.
sooner. I think the need has been there.
Yeah.
I think we miss more people that go into it.
Brilliant. Well, that bodes well for the future, though, doesn't it? Karen, what one off-pitch trend do you see coming down the road?
Don't know, I reckon I'd call these two first. I'd ask these two, they seem to know what's going on. I think, you know what, I'll be honest, I don't know. Because it's so fast and changing and evolving. So yeah, I'm going to be transparent and give you not an answer that you're probably all looking for, but I don't know. We've just got to try and stay on top of it and call these two, I'd say.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
Thank
it. Thank you,
you.
everybody,
Thank
for
you.
listening. Thank you very much.